The orca, the killer whale. There was no fight. It opened her up like a tin can. The orca took the liver, everything else, 3 meters of muscle, teeth, flesh, it left to sink. This isn't hunger. A hungry predator eats its prey whole. The liver of a great white weighs several hundred kilograms, and it is packed with oil-rich fat of enormous energy value. The orca knows exactly where it sits and opens the shark precisely where it needs to. With whales, it's the same story. A pod will work a 40-ton gray whale for 2 or 3 hours. They don't kill it. They stop it from breathing. The whale drowns. And then they eat only the tongue and the soft tissue of the mouth. The rest sinks to the bottom. It never takes more than it needs. For 20 million years, the oceans belonged to Megalodon. Then he vanished. But a throne in the ocean never stays empty. The orca has no natural enemies, not one anywhere from the Arctic to the Antarctic. The great white shark is the symbol of ocean terror, the perfect predator, afraid of nothing. And when it meets an orca, it abandons the entire area, sometimes for more than a year. And this is where it gets strange. A creature that works on a great white like a surgeon, open it, remove the organ, close the case, has never, in the entire history of observation, killed a human being in the open ocean. Orcas behave this way in Norway, in Patagonia, off Kamchatka, off New Zealand. Different populations, different prey, different dialects, and identical behavior toward us. That cannot be a coincidence. Antarctica. Here lives a population of orcas that hunt seals resting on drifting ice floes. The problem is obvious. The seal is on the ice. The orca is in the water. Between them is half a meter of solid ice, which cannot be broken, not even at full speed. The seal doesn't see them coming. The orcas line up about 15 meters from the floe, shoulder to shoulder, and begin to accelerate just beneath the surface, without breaking it. At the last moment, they dive down together. The movement of their bodies throws the water upward. A wave a meter high slams into the floe. The first strike doesn't wash the seal off. It cracks the ice. The seal moves onto a larger piece. The orcas don't strike again blindly. They turn back and inspect the result. And this is where they do something scientists refuse to believe at first. They clear away the fragments of ice blocking their run-up. They push the floe with the seal on it out into open water where the strike will work better. They rebuild the battlefield to suit themselves. With every wave, the ice beneath the seal grows smaller, and at some point, there's nowhere left to hide. The researchers who first filmed this wrote that they had never seen coordination like it, not even within their own scientific team. And that isn't a compliment to the animals, it's a complaint about us. But not all of Antarctica knows this technique, and another pod entirely, 10,000 kilometers away, invented something even more dangerous to themselves. Peninsula Valdez, Argentina, 10,000 kilometers from Antarctica. Here, orcas do something no other animal on Earth does. Sea lions raise their pups on this beach. The young learn to swim right at the water's edge, in water knee-deep. An orca can't swim in there. Logic says they're safe. Orcas play by their own rules. "30 kilometers an hour, right at the surface. A precise reading of the beach angle, the right wave, and a turn parallel to the shore before the water runs out beneath you. A mistake costs a life. A stranded orca cannot breathe. Its own weight crushes its lungs. Out of the water, it dies within hours. That is why this is taught for years. First, the mother runs the shoreline herself. She checks the angle. She reads the shingle. She watches how the wave pulls back. Then she nudges the calf toward the very edge, just so it feels solid ground beneath itself. The first attempts almost always fail. Then the mother comes alongside and shows it with her own movements, how to rock its way free. Sometimes that takes hours. About 30 orcas live along this coast. Roughly 13 have mastered the beaching technique. The rest either couldn't or never dared. Less than half the pod. That is not instinct. Every one of them has instinct. This is a skill. And it passes from mother to child like a trade. A trade, a dialect, a hunting tradition. Orcas have what we would call culture, and all of it rests on a brain worth examining on its own. An orca's brain weighs between 5 and 7 kilograms. A human brain, about 1.5. By absolute mass, it is the second largest on the planet, after the sperm whale. But mass isn't what matters. What matters is the folding of the cortex. The more folds, the more neurons fit into the same volume. In humans, that index sits at just over 2. In orcas, almost 6, the highest of any animal we know of. Echolocation gives it a three-dimensional picture of everything within 150 meters. And it doesn't just detect fish, it identifies the species. It hears the difference between two kinds of salmon, and it chooses the one it wants. Now, family. Forget the image of the lone predator. A pod is not led by the largest male, but by the oldest female. She remembers more than anyone. Males live 30 to 40 years, females up to 90. And here begins something almost unheard of in nature. Female orcas go through menopause. They stop reproducing at 30 or 40, and then live another 50 years. Apart from them, this is known in a few species of toothed whales, and in humans, almost nowhere else. The point is that she stops competing with her own children and becomes the memory of the pod. In lean years, it is the old females who lead the group to places the young have never seen. When such a female dies, mortality among her descendants rises sharply, and the sons never leave their mother, not at 10 years old, not at 30. An 8-ton male with a 2-meter fin stays beside his mother his entire life and dies not long after she does. Several times a year, the families of a single clan gather together. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of animals in one place. They aren't hunting, they're simply meeting. The Strait of Gibraltar. Since 2020, something has been happening here that fits none of the explanations above. Orcas approach sailing yachts and strike the rudder. Not once, sometimes for hours, until the rudder breaks. Since 2020, more than 500 such incidents have been recorded. Several yachts have sunk. The headlines found an explanation fast. The orcas apparently had declared war on humanity. The reality is both simpler and far stranger. The Iberian orca population, the one that lives in these waters, is on the edge of extinction, around 40 animals in total. And this behavior has been observed in roughly 15 of them, mostly young ones. One of the leading hypotheses is that it began as play. The behavior of 1 or 2 orcas turned out to be interesting enough that others started copying it, almost like a trend that spreads on its own. This is not revenge. It is not rage. It is culture. The same force that teaches calves to beach themselves in Patagonia and to raise waves off Antarctica. Only this time, culture picked itself a very strange game.
Вроде уходит. Да, фу, слава богу.
The orca has no natural enemies, but it has us. And our threats have nothing to do with teeth or claws. First, chemistry. Polychlorinated biphenyls, banned back in the 80s, but they barely break down, and they're still circulating through the ocean. At every level of the food chain, they accumulate further, and the orca, sitting at the top of it, receives the highest concentration of all. A mother passes these toxins to her calf through her milk. Some begin life already poisoned. Off the coast of Britain, there are populations where not a single viable calf has been born in years. The second threat, noise. For an animal that navigates the world through sound, ship engines and military sonar are like losing your primary sense. Sometimes the ocean simply becomes too loud for them to hear each other. Third, fishing nets and the disappearance of salmon. The southern resident population off the coast of North America is one of the most studied in the world. Today, just over 70 animals remain. All of these threats have one thing in common. Nature did not create them. We did. The orca learned to hunt almost everything the ocean ever made, but the ocean never prepared it for meeting us.